His first endorsement from a black member of Congress. May not sound like that big a deal, but Maryland Congressman Anthony Brown endorsement comes just 25 days before the Iowa caucus, the first contest of the primary season. He sat down with my colleague Hallie Jackson today and told her why he thinks Buttigieg has what it takes to defeat President Trump.
I believe that in listening to his message about empowering people, investments in education, very purposeful, targeted investments in healthcare, particularly considering the racial disparities in healthcare in our country, you're going to see support increase dramatically for Pete Buttigieg. So I think this is just the beginning or part of the conversation with voters, and I'm very confident that the support will be there.
Now, Brown's endorsement comes at a critical time, no question. It's ahead of Iowa. But the Buttigieg campaign has struggled since its launch to garner support from African-American communities. Despite consistently impressive fundraising numbers and some remarkably good poll numbers generally, a recent national poll among black voters shows Pete Buttigieg at 2%. Joining me now, Tiffany Cross, the co-founder and managing editor of The Beat DC, a daily political news platform that highlights people of color in our nation's politics. Tiffany, thank you for being here. I'm just going to say it. What's Pete Buttigieg's problem with getting African-American supporters?
You know, I think that Pete Buttigieg tends to run a campaign like he just discovered racism yesterday, probably because he just discovered racism yesterday. And that's not shade to Pete, but I think there are some things that he could have done early on. When you look at his record in South Bend, Indiana, Michael Harriet with The Root has done some really impressive reporting there, highlighting some of the challenges that black constituents had there. And when you put that on a grander scale, it's questionable. Black people are not a monolith when it comes to voting, but they darn sure are practical. And I think when you put him on this stage with other people, it's very clear, Allie, that he was somewhat of a media invention, right? You know, you had these gatekeepers in the media who gifted him and elevated his campaign with all this attention and glory. But then when it got time for voters to know him and meet him, it didn't resonate. There's a reason for that. And so I think we have to be really careful how we present him to the American people. We still call him, you know, one of the top contenders. We still speak about him as though he's totally electable. But the black group is black voters are an essential voting bloc to securing that Democratic nomination. So why then does the media, who don't often look like people like you and me, why then do we keep talking about his candidacy as though it's a sure thing, that there is a clear path to victory when it blatantly is not?
Think back, though. They're talking about Iowa the way Barack Obama was talking about Iowa. And the point for Barack Obama to a lot of people was that if he can show that he can do well in Iowa, he knew he was going to do better in South Carolina. But boy, if you can prove that you can do well with this group, you could. Is that the same kind of test that Pete Buttigieg is looking for? That will No. Okay.
And we're also talking about 2008. I think, you know, in 2020, it's a whole new electorate. And I don't think that Iowa carries the same weight. Look, it wasn't that, you know, black people